All right, so we are going to be talking about the Netflix live-action Cowboy Bebop series. I felt an obligation to talk about this series because I've been covering all the news that's been coming out of it ever since we found out basically what the cast was going to be, what the original set photos were. Once that kind of came out, the controversy between Faye Valentine and the actress saying things about the fans complaining and people saying that she's not sexy enough. And I covered the opening titles that they released, and I covered the second trailer that they released, which I just didn't really like at all. And so now the series has finally been released on Netflix, and what I was gonna do is watch the entire thing, find a way to binge it once I got through it, review the entire series. But as I was watching episode 1 and got about 2/3 of the way through it, almost towards the end, I realized that, number one, I don't know if I can make it through the whole series. I'm going to try. And number two is that there's a lot of stuff to talk about with just this one episode. And if I reviewed the entire series, we're probably looking at like a hour-long video, if not more. Now, some of you might be into that, but some of you that are already on the fence about the Cowboy Bebop live action to begin with, or don't care anything about it, I doubt that you're going to want to sit through a video that long or care what I have to say about the live action Cowboy Bebop, when most of you would probably prefer that this thing did not exist and would just rather watch the anime. Anyway, so here it is. I'm going to review the first episode for you, and I went into this with an absolute open mind. As you guys know, I've been on the fence about this thing ever since they started releasing stuff. There's some stuff I really liked, like when they released the opening title sequence where they recreated the tank opening but with the live action. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a great idea. It's something that I always thought about when I was younger. Like if they ever made a Cowboy Bebop movie, how I want the opening credits to be. Like that was always something I wanted. And then they released that second trailer, and I wasn't vibing with the wackiness of it and the camera angles and what they were doing with it and everything. And so now it's finally here for us to consume if we want to on Netflix, if you have it. And I'm going to talk about episode 1 now. Now, I have good things to say and I have bad things to say, and I try to go into this as objectively as possible. Number one, I want you guys to know that I'm not going into this specifically to hate on it. Like, if I had to make a complete hate rant video, I was willing to do that, but those aren't the type of videos that I particularly enjoy doing. I usually like to talk about things that I like as opposed to that I don't like, unless I'm super passionate about it and I just need to vent my opinions about why I hate something. And the last hate video I made was when I reviewed the Mortal Kombat movie, the newest one, which, anyways, that's a completely different thing. But here with Cowboy Bebop, in episode 1, we see a couple of things happening that they were trying to do. Number one, this episode, everything in it can pretty much be found within the anime, and it's recreated here in the live action. What I mean is that the very opening scene of this episode is almost exact the opening scene of the Cowboy Bebop movie, which is sometimes called Knocking on Heaven's Door or just Cowboy Bebop the movie, whatever you want to call it. In that movie, there is an opening scene kind of to introduce the characters where this gas station heist is going by these bounty heads. Spike shows up listening to headphones, so they're like, "What are you doing?" Takes him off, kicks everybody's ass. Jet shows up, jumps out of the ceiling. They take care of the bounties, and that's kind of the opening of the movie, along with the guy holding the old lady as the hostage, saying, "Whatever, cop, I'm going to blow her away," and Spike revealing that I'm not a cop, I'm just a bounty hunter, and I don't really care what you do to her anyways, and, shoots the bounty guy, and that's the kind of the opening of the movie. It's a great opening to the film, to the Cowboy Bebop movie. They recreated that opening in this first episode here. But a couple of things are different. Number one, it's happening at a space casino, which is recreated from episode 3, where you first are introduced to Faye. However, you aren't introduced to Faye at this casino in this episode. You're introduced to her later. That's the thing. So basically what they're doing is they're recreating things from the anime in this episode, but doing it from different portions of the anime and making their own thing. So it's a whole new, the live action canon is a whole new canon, but they're just recreating stuff that's from the anime. I'm sure that's going to change as the series progresses, but as far as episode 1, that's exactly what they're doing here. But the thing that I didn't like about this opening sequence to me, and I know this is going to sound really stupid considering this is a sci-fi fantasy show anyways, but it just felt very unbelievable. Like, I wasn't grounded into what's the word you want to call it, the realism of the series. Like, every series has its own sense of realism. It's like, what are the laws of physics within this world? What can happen? How do weapons work? How do characters interact with each other? Is there a certain level of seriousness or a certain level of goofiness, like, before you get the tone of what the world is? And the beginning of this episode, like the beginning beginning sequence here, the tone to me seemed like something that was going to be a detriment to this series, where it seemed like the camera angles just were way smack dab in people's faces, and then there was these weird wide angle lenses and these weird, like, I don't know if it's a fisheye lens, I don't know if that's what it's actually called or not, but just strange angles and strange choices of how they chose to shoot it. And when the fight scene broke out, again, the fight scene was very fantastical in the sense that, like, so Spike is there, and his first move is to start kicking them when they are all armed with, like, automatic rifles and guns and things like that. And it's not like Spike hasn't taken on a group of people in the anime and was able to beat them. But even in that gas station scene in the movie, I think there's like 4 dudes and they all have handguns and they're in different locations of the store. So if Spike fights a dude one-on-one, unsuspecting that he's, as skilled as he is in martial arts, he could feasibly disarm one of them, grab the gun, take out the other 2. Like, there's like a level of believability there within the anime version that was not within the live action version, where he just starts doing like martial arts and taking out all these dudes and, whatever happens there. And like, obviously I want to see Spike be a badass. I want to see him like take out a bunch of guys, but like this opening sequence just sort of missed the mark in my opinion because of that. And then it starts to get you used to the tone of this series, which is very, very wacky. Like, it seems very, somebody used the term like Scott Pilgrim-ish in the trailer that they released, the second trailer, and it really seemed to kind of follow suit into that. There's this one moment where this guy comes out of the bathroom and he has this weird, like, weapon that I've never seen in the Cowboy Bebop anime, and it could, like, blast a hole through the ship, and then, like, everyone starts getting sucked out into space, and they're, like, hanging on while they're flying, and, and it's just, like, it sets this really strange tone where, like, the live-action version is showing itself to be more cartoony than the anime itself. And something about that really rubbed me the wrong way. Here's the thing, though. While watching this episode and, like, continuing through it, I'm going to continue to explain the episode, but, like, while watching through it, there's a couple of things I noticed. And number one is, on the positive side, there's 2 positives I want to give. The first positive is that all of the actors, I think, were doing a pretty good job at portraying their characters. I think John Cho did a really good job, and the standout to me, absolutely, I'm sorry, I forget the actor's name, but it's the actor playing Jet Black. I think the actor that is playing Jet absolutely nails the character. This is just my opinion. You guys might feel differently, but the actor that's playing Jet, probably should have done some research before this video and looked up the actor's name. But I think that he gets the mannerisms correct. I think he gets the tone of voice correct. I think he gets the little nuances of speaking. Like, this dude is nailing Jet Black. That sounded really weird out of context. You know what I'm saying, though? So, yeah, hands down, I don't have anything bad to say about the actors. I don't have anything bad to say about him or John Cho or any of the other actors except maybe the one that we see at the end of this episode, which I'll get to that in a second. But I don't have anything bad to say about them. I think they're doing a really good job portraying the characters and, like, the vibe and the tone that they're giving off as the characters themselves. I think it works. I think they picked, like, pretty solid actors for the job. Again, that's just my opinion. The other positive that I'm going to give it is that I can tell that the people that made this series at least understand or have an appreciation for the anime itself just by the fact of all the little subtleties and nuances of things that are going on in the background, the way the technology looks, the way the ashtray looked in the casino, the way the casino itself looked, the way that, the tavern sequence that happens later in this episode that's a recreation of the first episode of the anime. Like, you can't make a series like this if you didn't have any appreciation for the original source material to begin with. The problem is, here in Cowboy Bebop, you have all that stuff that reminds you of what makes it special, but while that's while you're seeing those things and while you're getting nostalgic about those things and watching this, you just, at least for me, I just wish I would have, I just wish I was watching the anime instead. Does that make sense? Like, there are things in this that are so reminiscent of the anime that while I'm watching it, I'm like, the anime is better. Like, it's just better. Like, if I'm going to watch the same scene or the same, circumstances, the same plot line, I'm like, I'd rather just be watching the anime, And that's nothing against the actors. I think the actors do a really good job. But so there's that. So that's where it goes into the negative. So the positive is that, like, I see the appreciation, I see the care, but while I'm seeing that, it's reminding me of what I'm not watching and how much better what I'm not watching is. Now, the rest of this episode goes into basically the same plotline of the first episode of the anime, Asteroid Blues, where there's this character named Asimov who is selling this drug called Red Eye or Bloody Eye. I think they just call it Red Eye in the live action. Essentially working like some crazy like meth, cocaine, whatever that you inject into your eyes, turns them red, and you get like this jolt of energy that can, like, you know, he takes out a bunch of dudes in the tavern, which is the same thing in the anime. And he's a bounty head that Spike and Jet are hunting down, and Spike and Jet do this basically because the bounty that they had in the beginning of the episode, they had to pay for all the damages of the casino, so they didn't actually get anything out of it, which I thought was funny because that's literally something that happens to them all the time in the show. They're always broke, something always goes wrong. You know, they go through all this shit, all this trouble to get a bounty head or to get something done, and then they wind up like having to eat their bell peppers and beef without beef. You know, that's just how the show goes. So again, I see that little like appreciation to the anime. Like I see how, you know, the plot line unfolds like that. It's the same way the anime would. So I get that. And like I said, the plot pretty much unfolds the same way it does in the anime, with a couple of little differences. Spike still goes around searching for Asimov. You know, Spike still meets up with Katerina, which is Asimov's girlfriend, and they have this subtle conversation. But in the anime, Asimov himself shows up, chokes Spike out, and then they make their getaway. In the live action, we actually get our first introduction to Faye during this sequence, who's there for the bounty as well. And the weird thing about that is that, like, we don't learn anything about Faye in this episode. She shows up, she says she's here for the bounty too. She has a little scuffle with Spike, so we see that she's physically capable and everything. Obviously Spike does win the fight itself, the altercation itself, which is good. If they made Faye win, I just don't even, I just don't. And that's not like a man versus woman thing, other than obviously Spike being like physically stronger. But like Spike is so skilled and trained, and martial arts is his thing. And, you know, Faye's motto is shoot them before they shoot you. You know, she's not so much of a physical fighter, even though she can. She's not on Spike's level. So thank God they didn't like try to do that and like make them equal on that level, because that just would not have worked. But yeah, so they add Faye in here in the first episode, but we don't really get to learn anything about her. Same thing happens, you know, Spike brings her on board. You know, she's like handcuffed in the bathroom the same way she is in episode 3 of the anime. So again, like I said, they're kind of like grabbing different portions of the anime and kind of putting it together in the episode. But other than that, Faye doesn't really do anything. They do let her go. She's there at the final battle, but she doesn't join the crew in this episode, and she just kind of goes off and does her own thing. Don't really know where she came from. The only thing we know about her in this episode is that she's another bounty hunter. So there's that. The finale sort of works the same way. You know, Asimov winds up dying, and then Katerina winds up, you know, killing herself while she's in space. She's confronted with the police, and she, you know, takes her own life and stuff like that. And the thing about it, again, is that in this episode, in the live action, they played the scene the same way, where Spike goes after her and, you know, pleads with her, like, not to take her life and everything. And, you know, he sort of sees that she's in this, like, horrible situation, you know, and he feels this sense of remorse for her. But in the anime, it just, I don't know, it has such a more powerful impact. Like, I think it's because of the way that it's animated, and because of, you know, things that you can do in live action, or things that you can do in anime that don't work the same in live action. Whereas, you know, when she blows out into space and you see her kind of floating in the anime, it has this really kind of sad feeling to it. In the live action, it just looks kind of off because you have this live action character floating in space, and it didn't look or feel as powerful as it did in the anime. And it was one of those moments where I'm watching this and it reminds me of what I really loved, but it's not that. It's an imitation of that, you know? It's the live action version. So yeah, that's really all I gotta say about that. Okay, so, but then I gotta talk about this. Then this was the worst part of the episode by far for me personally. So one of the greatest things about Cowboy Bebop, the anime, is that you have all these misfit characters that have kind of come together. And for me, this is how I always explain Cowboy Bebop, is that it's basically characters that have that their best stories are already behind them, and they're just sort of like floating through space, like they're floating through life. They're just trying to survive. They're trying to make ends meet. They're trying to pay the bills, or like basically get food. Like, you know, Spike used to be in the Syndicate. He used to do a lot of bad shit. He used to, you know, do whatever they did in that. He escaped it, and now he's just sort of this loner floating through life, along with Jet, somebody that he shouldn't even be friends with, shouldn't even be a partner with, because Jet was a former cop who used to, you know, be a by the book kind of person, and then a bunch of shit went wrong. He lost his arm. He decided to quit that shit. Now he's a bounty hunter. Faye, again, she has a troubled past. I don't want to spoil anything. Fuck it, I'll spoil it. I figure you guys already know what Cowboy Bebop is. You know, she had this illness. She was frozen in time, unfrozen, lost her memory. So she doesn't really know herself. She doesn't know where she's going, whatever, trying to meet ends meet. You know, she finesses people and becomes a bounty hunter and that stuff. So there are all these misfit characters. And the thing that's great about it, too, is that Cowboy Bebop doesn't spell things out for you. When it goes into flashbacks of Spike's past, they're out of order, and they're never fully explained. It shows you glimpses of what he did, shows you glimpses of him meeting Julia, shows you glimpses of him working within the Syndicate, glimpses of him being, you know, back-to-back with Vicious while they're, like, fighting and stuff like that. But it never shows you the full story, and it never shows you the story in order. It gives you little pieces, and you, as the viewer, put that together in your head to try to figure out what exactly happened between Spike, Julia, and Vicious. And I think that's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant way to do it because, you know, I like that I like that it trusts the intelligence of its audience and it isn't just blatantly put out for you. And yeah, and in the anime, you know, it only delves into Spike's past in 5 out of the 26 episodes. Episode 5, 12, 13, 25, and 26. Yes, I know this by heart because Cowboy Bebop is like one of my favorite freaking shows. Not even just anime, one of my favorite shows of all time. I love it to death. And here we are introduced to Vicious in the first episode because Asimov in this episode was connected to the Syndicate. So we're already setting up this confrontation between Spike and Vicious. And when it shows Vicious for the first time, if you guys follow me on TikTok, by the way, I'm trying to build up my TikTok. So if you follow me at Real Life Ryan and show me, like, tell me what kind of content you want on there. I did a reaction of the introduction to Vicious, and I couldn't do it, man. This was the cheesiest, worst part of the episode to me. So these 3 goons that work for the Syndicate go to Vicious, who's just standing there menacingly, just standing there. And he turns around, and I just, like, nothing against the actor. I'm not talking shit on the actor, all right? Like, I got nothing against these actors personally. I don't, like, it's fine. Like, I don't do that. I don't talk shit on actors or go spread hate or whatever, but I'm just saying Vicious looked horrible. He looked horrible. He looked so, like, 80s movie villain, cheesy, like, just bad, dude. Like, his whole get up, the hair, like, his facial expression, everything about it was wrong. Like, I just hated it. And he hears that, oh, Spike might be alive, and he slits the dude's throat. And why did he slit the dude's throat? Like, why? Like, Vicious is, first of all, he's still working for the Syndicate at this part, so can he literally just, like, go and kill members of the Syndicate at his own whim? Also, like, Vicious is never the type of dude in the anime to just, like, kill off his henchmen like they're nothing. You know what I mean? Like, he might not care or value their lives in the sense that if they die in the mission, it is what it is. Like, that's just part of it. But, like, he's not Darth Vader who literally just hears a bad piece of information and then kills his freaking, you know, his henchmen and then moves and, like, promotes a new one. Like, that's not Vicious. So they had him do that just to introduce him as the villain. Like, oh, this guy's ruthless. He'll kill you in an instant. But that's not what's scary about Vicious. Vicious is like, he lurks, you know, sort of behind the scenes. He's like looking for his way to overthrow the Syndicate, which I believe they're alluding to in the series too. But, like, you know, Vicious in the anime, he only shows up at particular points. And because he does that, because he's very soft-spoken, because he doesn't have a lot of dialogue, because he's, you know, this figure that only shows up a few times, he has this air of mystery to him. And I just felt like in this one scene, they just completely eliminate everything interesting about Vicious by just making him this ominous dude who's standing there menacingly, turning around and then killing his henchmen. And then it goes to a shot of Vicious with Julia. So in this version of, this is where they're deviating a lot from the anime. So in this version, Vicious and Julia are together. And that just, to me, like, really throws a wrench into everything. Now, whether Julia's playing him or not is yet to be seen. I've only watched the first episode. She probably has some ulterior motive. She's probably going to betray him at some point. You know, it is what it is. But it just was awkward to look at. It was just awkward to watch. And whatever they're doing with Vicious, I'm just not about it. And that was just the first episode. And look at that. I ran it for 20 minutes. I mean, I'll probably edit some of this out. Maybe it's a little bit shorter. But Jesus. So my first impression so far is that, like I said, you know, I'm not here to just shit on something. I try to look at this. I try to watch this as objectively as possible. But I will say that my negatives exceed my positives at this point. I will continue to watch this, perhaps. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you want more videos on it. If you want me to just do an overall review or do it episode by episode, because I could do that. But I had to just stop at this first episode and tell you guys my thoughts, because I just couldn't contain it. I couldn't watch 9 more episodes and not tell you. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. There are things that I like. There are things I like about it. There are. But just right now, I just would really just rather go back and watch the anime. But anyways, what do you guys think? Like, if you watched it, if you watched the first episode, any episodes, the whole series, if you binged it, whatever, put all that in the comments below. I'm very, very curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the Cowboy Bebop live action, at least the first episode. Or if not, hey, I watched it so you didn't have to. So let me know what you think about it anyways down below. Other than that, guys, please comment on this video and give it a like, share it too, because all engagement with the video helps to be seen in the algorithm, which helps the channel, which helps me just in life. So engagement is the name of the game. So just engage with the video however you want to. I heard they're taking away dislikes, which is stupid. So dislike it too if you want to. Other than that, guys, subscribe if you want to stick around and see more videos. I love you all. Take care. I'll talk to you next time.